Ever get that creepy feeling in an old house? Like someone or something is watching you?
Oh, totally.
Well, today, we're diving into a place that's practically built on those vibes. The Myrtles Plantation.
Yeah, the Myrtle. It's out in Louisiana, up 100 miles from New Orleans,
Hmm.
famous for being one of the most haunted places in America.
And we've got a ton of listener questions about it, so we dug into some historical records, firsthand accounts, even some paranormal investigators' reports, ready to get spooky.
Let's do it.
So before we get to ghosts, set the scene for us. What's the history of this place?
Well, the Myrtles was built back in 1796 by General David Bradford.
Wait, Bradford, wasn't he the guy who...
Well, made the Whiskey Rebellion.
That's right, the Whiskey Rebellion.
Yep, that's the one. So it's this beautiful old plantation house,
Yeah.
classic antebellum architecture, Spanish moss, all those Southern Gothic vibes.
That's charming.
It is, from the outside. But there's a lot of darkness woven into its history.
Ooh, that's what we like to hear. Okay, so where do we start with the hauntings? I know there's that story about a slave named Chloe.
Right? The legend of Chloe. It's a tragic story. It gets repeated a lot. But historical records, they don't back it up.
Really?
Yeah. The story goes that Chloe was enslaved by the Woodruffs, the family who owned the Myrtles after Bradford's daughter.
Gotcha.
Chloe supposedly got her ear cut off for eavesdropping. And then, in revenge, she poisoned a cake with oleander leaves, killed the mistress and two of her daughters.
Whoa.
Then she was hanged by other slaves and thrown into the Mississippi River.
That is, wow, intense. But you're saying it never happened?
Pretty much, yeah. We've got census records showing the family owned slaves, but there's no Chloe listed. And there were deaths in the family, sure, but they were from yellow fever, common back then. One of the daughters even lived to adulthood and got married.
So if the story isn't true, then how did it become so attached to the Myrtles? I mean, people on Reddit swear they've seen her ghost, a blue mist, green turban. There's even that photo going around from 2017.
It's a classic example of how stories change, Especially ghost stories. Details get added, characters become more and more vivid. Sometimes a simple haunting can turn into a full-blown murder mystery.
Right?
The Chloe legend. It's fascinating, not because it's true, but because it shows how much we love a good story, even if the evidence says otherwise.
Okay, good point. So let's move on to something we know happened. The murder of William Winter. He was shot on the porch back in 1871, right?
That's right. William Winter, son-in-law of Ruffin Sterling, who inherited the plantation after the Woodruffs. He was killed in January 1871, no doubt about that. But the details, they've gotten a little embellished over time.
Embellished how? I thought he was shot on the stairs and died on the 17th step?
Yeah.
Isn't that why people say they hear phantom footsteps stopping on that step?
That's the story everyone tells, yeah.
Yeah.
But if you look at what the newspaper said at the time, the Point Coupee Democrat, it says he was shot and died on the porch.
So no dramatic staircase death.
No, just a brutal murder.
Another ghost story debunked. But what about that theory that his murder was connected to the Ku Klux Klan? Any truth to that?
That theory comes from a researcher, David Young. It's definitely intriguing. Winter opposed the Klan, and they were active in Louisiana at that time, so it's possible. But we don't have hard proof.
So we've got a plantation, complex history, a disputed slave legend, and a confirmed murder. And it feels like we're just getting started with the Myrtles.
We've only scratched the surface.
Okay, so we've talked about the history of the Myrtles Plantation. A murder, a maybe not true ghost story. What about the people who have actually stayed there? What kind of spooky stuff have they seen?
Oh, yeah. The first-hand accounts. Those are where things get really interesting. I mean, people are sleeping in the same rooms where these hauntings supposedly happen.
Yeah, hard pass for me. I like hearing about it, but from a safe distance. So what are people saying they've seen?
Everything. Unexplained noises, cold spots, apparitions, things moving on their own. But there are definitely some themes that keep popping up. Like children. Lots of stories about children.
Oh, yeah. Like those giggling kids we talked about.
Yeah.
From Reddit. And there's that one where the guest heard a baby crying, even though they were the only ones staying there.
Right. And it makes you wonder if these are echoes of what happened in the past. Why are so many of them focused on kids? Are children more sensitive to that kind of energy, or is it something else entirely?
I don't know. That's definitely creepy.
Mm.
Ooh, and there's that story about the guest who had a dream about a big costume party at the Myrtles. And it turns out the family who owned it in the 1800s was known for those kinds of parties.
I know, right? It really blurs the line between what's real and what's in our heads. Is it just a coincidence? A subconscious thing? Or something more?
It's like the chicken or the egg, but with ghosts. Okay, this one's freaky. A security guard worked at a subdivision nearby Beau Shane, which is supposedly built on land that used to be part of the Myrtles.
Mm.
This guy reported seeing a woman in white in broad daylight. He also said he heard noises, saw shadows, the whole 9 yards.
So it makes you think, is the haunting just in the house? Or is it tied to the land itself? Like, what if the energy isn't confined to the building?
Okay, now that is unsettling, like the whole area is haunted. But what about some more concrete evidence? Not just feelings.
There's a story about a guest who took some photos, and some of them came out blurry, like something was messing with the camera. Other people have said they saw objects moving, the classic poltergeist thing.
Oh yeah, like when they filmed The Long Hot Summer at the Myrtles. The film crew said the furniture kept moving back to its original spot, even after they rearranged it.
That's wild. Imagine being a Hollywood star, and you're dealing with phantom furniture movers. It'd make you think twice, for sure.
Definitely. Okay, so we've got crying babies, moving furniture. Have people ever tried to talk to whatever might be at the Myrtles?
Oh, tons of paranormal investigators have gone there. They bring EVP recorders, dowsing rods, all that stuff. You name it. They try to ask questions, use different techniques to get a response.
Any luck?
Well, it's mixed. Some say they've got proof, others come up empty. It seems like no matter how much technology we throw at it, some things just stay hidden.
Yeah, that makes sense. Out of all these stories, what stands out to you? What's the most compelling or maybe the most puzzling?
Honestly, the sheer variety. I mean, we've got people seeing things, hearing things, stuff moving, even dreams that seem to connect to the history of the house. It's almost like the Myrtles is some kind of amplifier for the paranormal. Like, it reflects what people believe.
Whoa, that's a cool way to think about it. So it's not just about the ghosts, but about how we perceive them, how our minds interact with the energy of the place.
Exactly. Hauntings are subjective experiences. What one person sees as a ghost, someone else might just explain away. It's all about belief, perception, and the things we don't know.
Mind officially blown. But we can't talk about the Myrtles without mentioning the haunted mirror.
The one with Sarah Woodruff and her children?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a classic ghost story element. Mirrors, portals. They don't just show us ourselves, right? Maybe they show us something else too.
And mirrors are creepy anyway, especially in an old house. What's the deal with this particular mirror?
The legend says that when someone died, they used to cover the mirrors in the house so their spirit wouldn't get trapped. But when Sarah and her kids died, this mirror was left uncovered.
So they're like stuck in a mirror selfie forever. That's both sad and terrifying. Wait, was that mirror covering thing a real custom?
Oh, yeah. In some cultures it was. It's about superstition and beliefs about the soul and death. I mean, I don't know if it actually traps spirits, but it definitely adds to the creepiness factor.
Totally. It's like the mirror's a symbol, for all the unanswered questions about the house. A literal window into the unknown. Okay, so haunted house, maybe not true slave legend, a murder, a creepy mirror, and lots of weird stuff happening. What makes the Myrtles such a paranormal hotspot?
It's the question, isn't it? There are a few theories out there. One is residual energy. The idea that strong emotions can leave a mark on a place.
Like an echo, but made of feelings.
Yeah, like an energetic echo. It sticks around long after whatever happened is over.
So that could explain some of the things people experience, like cold spots, or feeling like someone's watching them. But what about the more active stuff? Objects moving, or people actually talking to spirits?
Well, for that, there's the idea of intelligent hauntings, meaning there are actual entities, spirits, who are there, and they can interact with us.
Okay, now we're getting into spooky territory. But if these spirits are hanging around, why? Why are they stuck at the Myrtles?
There are a few reasons. Some people think spirits get attached to a place and can't or won't move on. Maybe they have unfinished business or a strong connection to the house.
Like William Winter. Maybe he can't leave the porch where he was killed. Or those kids who died from yellow fever. Their energy is still playing in the halls. That's kind of sad. What about those stories of spirits following people home from the Myrtles? Is that real?
That's what some call attachment. The idea that certain people are more sensitive to spirits, and they kind of attract them, like a beacon. So maybe that's why some guests feel a presence even after they leave the Myrtles.
Okay, now I'm getting creeped out. So residual energy, intelligent hauntings, attachments. Any other theories we should think about?
Well, there's the idea of vortexes or portals, places where it's easier to cross over between our world and other dimensions.
So the Myrtles could be sitting on a doorway to another dimension. That would explain a lot. But how do we even test that?
That's the thing with paranormal stuff. It's hard to prove. We can look for evidence, see if there are patterns, but it's not like traditional science. We're dealing with things we don't fully understand.
So we might never know why some places are haunted. It's kind of frustrating, but also really interesting, right?
Totally. It shows us that we don't know everything, and that there might be things out there beyond what we can see and touch.
For sure. The Myrtles definitely gives us a lot to think about. The history, the stories, the mystery, it really captures your imagination.
It reminds us that history isn't just dates and facts. It's also about stories and mysteries and the power of places that hold on to the past.
Well said. And for our listeners, if you're ever in Louisiana and feeling brave, maybe spend a night at the Myrtles. Just let us know how it goes.
And maybe bring an extra flashlight.
Good advice. Well, that's it for our deep dive into the Myrtles Plantation. Thanks for listening, everyone. Be sure to follow or subscribe for more deep dives into the unexplained. Until next time, stay curious and sleep with one eye open.